Hello, good evening. I'm Roger Johnson. Welcome to North West Tonight. Our top story this evening, jailed for stealing a mobile phone. So why is Thomas White still in prison after 14 years? His family is demanding answers. Campaigners say he's one of 3,000 people trapped in jail on now abandoned public protection orders. Also tonight, hope for Hayley, a world first in brain surgery at Liverpool's Alder Hey Children's Hospital.
I'm at Manchester City, who could take a big step towards defending their Champions League title in what is a huge quarter-final here against Real Madrid.
Dinkies, it's all child's play as Blackpool's famous vintage toy shop celebrates its 75th birthday.
And after all the unsettled weather we've had over the last few weeks and months, the weather finally looks like it's going to settle down for the weekend. I'll have all the details at the end of the programme.
Thomas White was sent to prison more than a decade ago for stealing a mobile phone in a non-violent street robbery. His minimum term was 2 years. 14 years later, he's still inside, and that's because he was given an imprisonment for public protection sentence, basically an open-ended one. Now, they were scrapped in 2012 because of concerns over their effects, but 3,000 people are still serving them, and now the Labour politician who championed them is helping Thomas to see his son, who he last saw when he was a toddler. Phil McCann reports.
Thomas White has been imprisoned for the last 14 years for stealing a phone.
To become all these years later and still not get anywhere, like he has, not just himself, but thousands have not got a release date, is tiring.
Thomas from Bury pleaded guilty in 2012. With previous convictions, he was jailed, but at court he was handed an imprisonment for public protection sentence, an IPP. It had a minimum term of 2 years, but IPPs have no maximum term.
We ended up getting an independent psychiatrist from the outside to give him an independent assessment, and Thomas, the psychiatrist, clearly says in his report that Thomas has developed paranoid schizophrenia.
Thomas has been moved to a succession of different prisons across the country, and his family says that means he hasn't been able to complete the courses he needs to complete to get released.
Thomas is now being held here at HMP Garth near Leyland, and in a few days' time he'll be able to do something that he hasn't been able to do ever since he was imprisoned back in 2012. He'll be able to see his son, who was 2 when he was jailed.
I think it will give hope to both of them, just what they need.
Thomas's son is now 14. He secured the meeting after going to London with Clara to meet with the man who brought in IPP sentences, the former Home Secretary, Lord Blunkett. He intervened.
He pulled every emotion out and he spoke about his frustration. It was a moving moment.
Lord Blunkett has since criticised the way IPPs have been used, admitting he got it wrong.
So there's a distinct difference when you go inside prisons to speak and things from the ordinary prison population and IPP prisoners. They're distinctly different. They don't have any hope.
Pastor Mick Fleming from Burnley, a former criminal now famed for his charity work, has been helping Thomas's family.
That takes away, dehumanises somebody. And this is the British government and the prison system who is complicit in torturing prisoners.
IPPs were abolished in 2012, due in part to their psychological impact, but not for those already in prison. The government says 3/4 of them have been released, but there are still nearly 3,000 behind bars. Phil McCann, BBC North West Tonight.
Sarah Ramsden's here. She's from UNGRIP, the campaigning group against public protection sentences from Chester, or you're from Chester. Sarah, thank you for coming in.
No problem.
The clue's in the name here, public protection.
Yep.
Would you agree that some people need to still be in prison for the protection of the public?
I think the sentence as it stands originally decided that there were this certain type of people who needed to be put onto it. Unfortunately, they weren't unique offenders. They were just caught up in a unique sentence. The sentence has now been abolished. So we now have a replacement in there which protects the public now. That's exactly what we have, and it works. So we expect people to be kept underneath that sentence as well. And if people need to remain in custody, then that they remain in custody for safety, as they do now.
So effectively what you want is for all these 3,000 to be reviewed, and you're not saying if they're deemed to be a threat to the public they should be let out?
No.
No.
We're saying that they need to be resentenced and put onto exactly the same sentencing regime as everyone else that's caught up in the custodial setting. It's an unfair punishment when you're against people inside there who are on the same sentence, timescale wise. So you're in for 2 years and you're on 2-year IPP, you're going to be indefinite. 2 year when you go in, you come in and you go out.
And Labour brought this in 2005, I think, didn't
Yes.
it? Because they wanted to be tough on crime.
Yep.
It was abolished, and it's actually David Blunkett, as Phil was saying in his report, who's now working with Thomas White's family to try and facilitate that visit for his son.
Absolutely. David Blunkett is probably one of the strongest supporters we've got now.
And he was the one that the Home Secretary brought it in.
Absolutely, and he understands the mistakes that have been made by it. It wasn't designed to be given out to the amount of people it was given out to. We ended up with nearly 9,000 people on this sentence. Originally there was planned to be around about 600 of the most dangerous criminals who weren't warranting life sentences. We've ended up with over 9,000 people on it.
And you've got personal experience of it.
I have, yeah. My partner is an IPP. He's a released IPP, so he's in the community now, but he's still held under the same licence conditions and can be recalled back into custody indefinitely at any time.
And he was jailed for an assault.
He was jailed for an assault. His sentence was just under 2 years. He ended up serving just over 14 over his sentences. He's been in 4 times on recall in total with it.
And because he gets recalled, has he breached his licence? Is that why he gets brought
Yeah,
back
he's
in?
breached his licence conditions, which can be anything. It doesn't mean you committed an offence. It can be anything as low level as you've missed an appointment is a breach. So you can be recalled back in and you go back in indefinitely.
And what's the government saying to you? Pressure is growing, I know, on the Justice Secretary, on Alex Chalk. What are the government saying about this? Might they review this?
OK, so it is up for review at the moment. They're trying to change the licensing condition, which we welcome massively, to reduce it down to from the 99 years it holds down to a sentence to be able to pull it off and be able to reduce that down to have them removed. What that will not do, though, is make any difference for anyone like Thomas who's been held in custody since they were given it because they've not been released to even change the licensing conditions. So the only thing that would work is to re-sentence the people who are held inside who have got no hope, even on the government changes.
Thank you for coming in.
No problem,
Really
thank
grateful.
you.
Sarah Ramsden from UNGRIP talking about those public protection sentences. Now, Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer have exchanged blows at Prime Minister's questions today about the police investigation into the Ashton-under-Lyne MP Angela Rayner. Labour's deputy leader rejects claims that she provided false information about her main residence a decade ago and that she didn't pay the correct tax on a house sale. Mr Sunak raised the issue while responding to a question about a book written by Liz Truss.
She claims the Tory party's disastrous kamikaze budget that triggered chaos for millions was, her words, the happiest moment of her premiership. Has the Prime Minister met anyone with a mortgage who agrees?
Well, Mr. Speaker, all I'd say is he ought to spend a bit less time reading that book and a bit more time reading the Deputy Leader's tax advice.
We've got a billionaire Prime Minister and a billionaire Prime Minister, both of whose families have used schemes to avoid millions of pounds of tax, smearing a working-class woman.
2 teenage boys have been found guilty of murdering 14-year-old Nathaniel Sharney in Manchester in September last year. Nathaniel was stabbed in the neck after meeting the 2 boys, then aged just 13 and 14, for a pre-arranged fight in an alleyway in Harper Hay. They'll be sentenced at a later date. 1 in every 52 children in Blackpool is in care, compared with the national average of 1 in 140. That's according to researchers from the University of Liverpool. They've written a report and they say that it exposes deeply rooted social inequalities in a north-south divide. They've called for a renewed effort to tackle child poverty. Now, an 8-year-old girl from Nantwich in Cheshire has become the first child in the world to have pioneering treatment to treat dystonic cerebral palsy. The condition means that Hayley has uncontrolled muscle cramps and spasms, and surgeons at Alderhay Children's Hospital in Liverpool carried out complex brain surgery to give Hayley hope. Katie Walderman has this exclusive report.
She's very cheeky. She has got a very wicked personality, a wicked laugh.
Loves being tickled, doesn't she?
Yeah.
She giggles her head off at that.
Even though she's non-verbal, she can get a point across, very much so. She knows what she likes, she knows what she doesn't like by smiling or shouting.
Hayley was born at just 24 weeks old with dystonic cerebral palsy. She has no control over any of her movements, which can at times cause painful muscle cramps and spasms.
It impacts in everything that she does. Everything.
So she has very little control of her limbs at all.
It makes it very difficult for her to communicate.
8-year-old Hayley is about to become the first child in the world to undergo deep brain stimulation using brand new technology. The plan is to use tiny electrodes as small as a grain of rice to target the part of the brain responsible for controlling movement with tiny electrical pulses.
This operation is a world first in a child. I put those electrodes into the brain and then I connect it all up to this brain sensing new technology, and which will offer stimulation to her brain to help with her movement disorder and also allow us to get feedback in real time about what's going on.
So how life-changing could this be for Hayley and other patients like her?
Hopefully this is hugely life-changing for her.
It can't fix Hayley, but it can tone down these erratic movements that she's got.
It's Operation Day at Alderhay and an early start for Hayley and her family.
Nervous but optimistic, I would say. It's a big life change difference if she can get sort of control. And if she could use eye gaze or something to communicate better. She can tell us when she's in pain, when the dystonia is really bad. I can't wait to see what it can do.
The operation begins. The electrodes inserted.
And the green mark is where we aim for, so you can see that they perfectly overlay each other, which means that I've hit the target with the electrodes, which is what we wanted to do.
These are then connected by a wire under the skin to a battery implanted in Hayley's tummy. Doctors will now have the ability to monitor her brainwaves in real time.
2 to 3. Feedback that we've never had before. We can do analysis, we can understand what's going on in her brain, and we're able to alter the stimulation to maximise the benefit, hopefully for Hayley in the long term.
More than 3 hours on, the operation's gone well, but it'll be a few weeks yet before Hayley returns to Alderhay and those electrodes are turned on for the first time. Katie Walderman, BBC North West Tonight, Liverpool.
So you saw Hayley's dad there saying that he couldn't wait to see the effect that it will have. Well, tomorrow, in the second of Katie's reports, we will see Hayley's brain stimulation being switched on for the first time at Alderhay. I've had a look at Katie's report for tomorrow this afternoon. If you can, tune in. It is incredible. That's tomorrow night. We'll see the difference it's making. Now, buses, trains, the scarcity of well-paid jobs and pollution. They were just some of the topics debated today by the candidates for the Mayor of the Liverpool City region, the job currently held by Labour's Steve Rotherham, but the Conservatives, the Lib Dems, the Greens and one Independent are challenging him in May's election. The debate was staged at BBC Radio Merseyside and streamed on the BBC iPlayer, and Andy Gill was watching.
Welcome to a Mayor for Liverpool City region.
BBC Radio Merseyside was transformed into a TV studio for this debate. Those hoping for your vote in May will have powers over transport, housing, regeneration, culture and the environment. And it was transport that generated the first heat between Labour and the Lib Dems.
We're taking buses back into public control.
Which Manchester's done, we haven't yet.
We have done it. We have done it.
Said we have.
We have done it. So it's a phase. You can't just.
We've got less bus journeys now than we had 7 years ago.
The problem with the Lib Dems is this magic one solution to everything.
Absolutely
that you can say something and then it's done.
The Greens would bring back more bus lanes.
One thing that needs to happen for buses is the service needs to be quick and efficient and convenient for people. And one of the ways we can do this is by increasing bus priority on the roads, making sure there are bus lanes so the bus lanes can get into town quick.
The Conservatives want better access to transport to improve employment for disabled people.
If you can't rely on the
the transport to get you to work, or you can't trust it, then, you know, that's going to cause issues.
Questioned about making sure that the mayor will work for all 6 boroughs in the region, the issue of transport raised its head again.
Your leaflet promises a trackless tram, but now it's a bendy bus. That's a mutton dressed as tram.
Bendy bus. It's not a bendy bus.
It's not?
It's not a bendy bus. That's what you'd like to see. This is the
These
school.
are your words.
This is the school playground.
The Conservatives said the mayor has to justify what they spend.
I think we need to publish the breakdown of where spending is, but not only publish it, but publicise it so everybody knows.
And the Greens favour more devolution to improve accountability.
Another thing I really would definitely bring in is a citizens' assembly. That would be 100 people randomly selected from the city region to take a long-term involvement in the development of plans.
An independent candidate declined to take part in the debate.
I've always been the son of the docker who's voted Labour all my life, but sadly I'm disillusioned with the Labour movement now as it is nationally and locally.
Other issues included pollution in the Mersey and creating better paid jobs. Andy Gill, BBC North West Tonight.
Well, if you well, there it goes again. If you want to see the full mayoral debate, you'll find it on BBC iPlayer. It is also here on BBC One in the North West after our late bulletin around 10:40 this evening. I should say as well, by the way, that we'll be doing one for the Greater Manchester Mayor as well before Election Day. Now, cancer patient Joe McMillan has to immerse himself in freezing water every day as part of his treatment. Well, now his friend Matt is showing his support, this is Matt, and raising money for Joe's treatment by training to swim an ice mile. That's a mile in water that's 5 Celsius or below. Lindsay Prosser reports.
Joe McMillan arrives for a 3-minute dip in New Brighton Marine Lake. He believes he benefits from being in the cold water.
I'll count me minutes and I'm sitting and I'm watching, but mentally, I know I'm achieving something.
Joe was diagnosed with colorectal cancer in 2021. When his treatment was no longer working, Joe decided to travel to Germany for dendritic cell therapy. It helps the body's immune system to target cancer cells. His German oncologist suggested that cold water could help boost Joe's immune system.
You get in the water and you're relieved to be in the cold, you're relieved to be in that space where you're pushing yourself physically and mentally. It's not just a physical push.
Matt Starr, Joe's friend and experienced cold water swimmer, wanted to help fund Joe's treatment, so he had more time with his partner and baby. For 6 months he's trained to swim an ice mile. That's 1 mile in water 5 degrees Celsius or below.
I mean, he gives me so many other gifts, you know, he challenges me to think in a different way, you know what I mean? He is very inspirational in the way that he thinks.
He's swimming in something for 30 minutes that I sit in for 3.
As Matt and Joe have supported each other over the last 6 months, the Ice Mile Challenge has become much more than the swim itself.
That was something me and Matt spoke about quite early on. It's not just about raising funds and buying me more time, it's given me the motivation to go and do the things I need to do that I have the time for.
On the day of Matt's challenge, fellow cold water swimmers and members of the local community turned out to support him.
Swam really well, swam quite fast. Yeah, loved it, absolutely loved it.
People that didn't even know it was on, that just turned up and became a part of the day, like, that's what it does. And I think a lot of that, if you talk about community, I think that's what we lack a little bit of at the moment. I think we should be uniting a little bit more.
So far, Matt's raised £16,000. That's enough for Joe to have another session of treatment, and he plans to travel to Germany next month. Lindsay Prosser, BBC North West Tonight, New Brighton.
That's proper friendship, isn't it? Right, football, Manchester City face Real Madrid for a place in the Champions League semi-final tonight. Second leg of the quarter-final, 3-3 after the first leg in Spain. Richard Askham is at the Etihad, where hopefully City will have home advantage and will make it count.
Let's hope so, Roger. You can really feel just what a big game this is tonight. Manchester City, of course, the holders, going for what would be an unprecedented back-to-back trebles, facing Real Madrid. The kings, really, aren't they, of this competition? 14 times winners of the European Cup. And as you say, it finished 3-3 in that first leg, perfectly poised. So how are Manchester City fans feeling? Here's what they had to say to me a short time ago.
A bit nervous, but well, I think we've got a good chance.
Do you think they'll do it tonight?
Yeah, oh, definitely, yeah. I just think because we're at home, we've got our own fans, we've got the atmosphere. I think especially doing the second leg at home helps us better because it pushes us. It makes us won it 10 times more than we ever won it.
We came from Boston to see the game.
Did you, just this game?
Well, yeah, we're here with a big group for the week, so yeah, it's school vacation week.
Brilliant. How big a game is this then for Manchester City fans from America?
Well, is this your first game from your team ever?
Who's going to win then?
Manchester City!
Oh, you see, you're confident. Well, you enjoy the game. Thank you very much. So much to look forward to, isn't there? Phil Foden against Jude Bellingham. Good news for Manchester City. Kyle Walker back in training is expected to feature tonight. Will he feature from the start? We shall see. Kevin De Bruyne as well is fit. Pep Guardiola has said, though, we shouldn't expect Manchester City to beat Real Madrid 4-0 as they did the last time the two teams met. City will be strong favourites tonight, though, you would think. They seem to be coming to the boil, don't they, at just the right time in the semi-final of the FA Cup, top of the Premier League as well. All of the best coverage, of course, tonight on BBC Radio Manchester. Can't wait for it. Just want to finish though by saying many congratulations to Stockport County. We saw them promoted, didn't we, at the weekend to League One. Then it will go up as champions of League Two in such style as well. They beat Notts County 5-2. A hat-trick from Paddy Madden really puts the cherry on the cake for County. Let's hope that Manchester City can do it here tonight. From the Etihad, Rog, back to you.
Rich, thank you very much indeed, Richard, at the Etihad. Just before the weather with Simon, when I was little, I don't know about you, I used to love Subbuteo, the table football game. I laid the pitch out on the living room floor, though, much to my parents' annoyance. But I'm not sure that youngsters today will have maybe those same memories playing games on their phone screen. Little toy shops, of course, that we could visit back in the day, even just for window shopping, are fewer and further between. But in Blackpool, there is a toy shop which has been firing imaginations for generations. It's celebrating its 75th birthday. And Eunice Muller's been for a look round.
From the outside, little to tempt you in perhaps, but once inside, let me tell you why this shop has stood for more than 3/4 of a century. Mark Yates is in charge now, but over the years has been run by 3 generations of his family.
It's more of a shop with friends and customers, and every person that we meet is engaged with what we sell, even if it's just a Blackpool Tower, through to vintage toys, through to anything that sparks a childhood memory.
The shop is filled with toys and figurines from some of the most iconic and popular films and TV shows.
When you've been here 75 years, there's a lot to show off. What you need is a Time Lord, the Doctor perhaps, and a TARDIS.
A treasure trove of gifts, toys and souvenirs can be found, split between 2 floors.
The idea was to attract people to the shop and also share with them all the cool stuff that we've got. This is the incredibly rare Dr. War from Airfix from about 1978. He was meant to compete with Darth Vader and he is a bit brilliantly rubbish. He's got rubber pants and silver shoes.
I can see Del and Rodney in there.
Only Fools and Horses are so popular, and someone's made that out of wood. There's a lot of work gone into that.
You sure it wasn't Del boy who made that?
Probably, yeah.
This bus is the oldest item you will find here. The rarest is an Avengers set. Those 3 umbrellas, by the way, are usually lost. But Mark's favourite, by far, is this Aston Martin.
Because Corgi had to use that model to make the James Bond car. And what a great job they did. Ejector seats, bits that fire out. It's just fantastic.
Opens her gates to southerners who are visiting the north.
The British seaside holiday brought in the crowds when it opened back in 1949. Mark's dad, Colin, began working here back in 1958.
I'd been a butcher boy, and during the season, my brother wanted help. And really, the children we get are from 5 to 95.
You've almost got an army of people finding stuff for you.
That's the brilliant thing about this job, is people are always alerting us to cool stuff that's out there.
Brooks Collectibles may end up on your list to visit. Eunice Muller, BBC North West Tonight, Blackpool.
A real treasure trove. Right, Simon's here with the weather, as you can see, and some clear skies meant a bit of a spectacular show, haven't they?
Yeah, look behind me. Northern Lights, the aurora. That was seen in Kendal, in Cumbria. Beautiful picture there, isn't it? But even actually in Lancaster, we had the Northern Lights spotted by one of our weather watchers last night. And interestingly, there's a possibility we might see them tonight as well, because I'll show you the aurora forecast. And you can see the red here is where it's most likely, but it does just edge its way a bit further southward. Now, if you look to the north through tonight, with clear skies, there may be a possibility of seeing the Northern Lights. You need to be away from any town or city lights, and as I said, look to the north, good view of that. But through tonight, as I said, clear skies actually. So yes, possibility of the Northern Lights, but also it's going to turn cold with those clear skies. We may see a frost, gardeners beware, first thing tomorrow morning with those temperatures down close to, if not below freezing. Tomorrow morning starts off on fine notes with some sunshine, cloud increasing though with some aberraux of rain moving its way through the Isle of Man into all parts really by the end of the day on Thursday, and maximum temperatures getting up to about 10 to 12 degrees Celsius. So it's still going to feel a little bit chilly, but this rain through tomorrow afternoon is going to be the last of any rain we'll see for a few more days, because high pressure is building in from the west as we go into the weekend. It's going to mean settled conditions. On Friday, we might just start off with 1 or 2 showers, but there will be some sunny spells developing for much of the day. It's still going to feel quite chilly. We'll see temperatures only really about 10 to 13 degrees Celsius. And then into the weekend, as I said, high pressure becomes more established, so drier, not necessarily warmer, however. You can see the colder air is still close by, and there'll be varying amounts of cloud. The best of the sunshine will be on Saturday.
2 for the price of 1, a weather forecast and an aurora forecast.
Oh, there we go, I can do all sorts.
Fantastic. Simon, thank you, and thank you to you for watching. Have a great evening. Cheerio.